So let's talk about some other aspects of the investor mentality. Diversification. Many people really misunderstand diversification. Diversification is all about risk reduction. I hear people tell me all the time, Paul, I'm diversified. I have income stock and blue chip stock and international stock. And I kind of smile and I say, well, it's not all stock. If I told you I was diversified because I owned single family rental homes, duplexes, and fourplexes, does that sound diversified? You say, no, that's all real estate. You need to understand, without diversification, an investor becomes a gambler. Because if things don't always go your way, then something's going to go wrong. And I've lived long enough, and I think most of us have lived long enough to realize that there's never a time when everything always goes your way. So let's take a look at what real diversification looks like. At the One Group, we believe in 6 pillars of wealth, which we think of as true diversification. We'll go through each of these today. Our goal is going to spend most of our time talking about real estate because that's the purpose of the presentation. But we're going to briefly touch on all 6 of these pillars because they're crucial to having a successful real estate investment portfolio. So the first pillar is liquidity. Reserves must be maintained in order to ensure your ownership of the property for decades or more. You'll hear us say many times, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. If you think about this, if you know somebody who's owned an apartment building since 1985, you'll probably find if they have maintained that building, that they've made quite a lot of money on it. Now, if they told you, I made this great deal in 1985 and I made this huge profit by selling it in 1987, you say, big deal. You made a few $1,000s when you could have made millions. It's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. And liquidity is what ensures being able to hold time in the market. Those are the liquid reserves for the things we didn't expect. Without liquid reserves, an investor becomes a gambler. I've seen these TV shows, I'm sure everybody's the same, where they've got people that are flipping houses and that kind of a thing. And one I saw just drove me crazy. They said if they didn't sell the house in 30 days, then they would be out of money. And I'm like, that is not investing, that's gambling. Liquid reserves are required to be able to deal with situations happening we don't expect, because that's one of the few things in life we can guarantee. There will be things that happen that we don't expect. The next pillar is real estate. And we're going to spend most of our time talking about real estate today. But real estate is the single most effective investment tool for creating new wealth. In fact, the vast majority of new millionaires in the United States made their money through investing in real estate. It's often the only asset class that has the strength to make up for lost time without risking financial failure. We talked about leverage and how we could turn a 30% return into a 400% return by using leverage. The inherent stability of real estate makes it a sound investment choice for nearly everybody, and the ability to safely leverage it makes it extremely powerful. When we're talking about real estate, I do want to point out, we're talking about quality real estate. They're talking about the 50 top major metropolitan areas in the US with high quality locations and properties, diversified economies, positive population growth, which gives us the highest probability of success. Real estate has a low risk of volatility. Short-term changes in value are unlikely to change expenses. So for example, we've got a property, we're going to be using it to create income, renting it out to somebody. So, blips in the value of real estate don't impact the lease rate, typically don't impact the expenses, the utilities and things of this nature. The income and expense ratios remain very stable. The issue is we need to be able to maintain that cash flow, and by using reserves and the fact that there's a low risk of volatility in income producing real estate, we find that we can create portfolios that are very, very safe for long periods of time. Real estate's also tangible. What does that mean? You can live in it and other people can't live in it. You cannot live in a stock. There are most of the things that we invest in, we can't tangibly use. The fact that real estate is tangible, we can live in it, other people can live in it, gives it an inherent value that other assets don't have that are not tangible. We can also insure it against loss. It's very difficult. It's possible, but it's much more expensive to insure other asset classes against loss. But we can also insure it against liability. For example, what happens if somebody is on our property and gets hurt? How do we insure that? It's all built into the real estate insurance system so that we can get insurance for a reasonable amount of money. And not all investment options can claim this. It's one of the things that makes real estate a hugely powerful tool. Tax favorable attributes. Now, what's the biggest reason people invest in things like 401ks and Roths? Because their money grows tax deferred. But the government puts huge restrictions on the amount of money that you can put. You only put a little bit of money in every year. And if you're older, I can't remember, it's 50, 55, you can do catch up. And what catch up means is you can put $1,000 a year more in. What are you catching up for at $1,000 a year? I'm not sure. But the issue is real estate grows tax deferred as much as you want, as much as you can eat, so to speak. There's no limit on how much real estate you can own other than the portfolio that you built. And it all grows tax deferred. In fact, I can sell one piece of real estate and buy another piece of real estate and still not pay tax by doing a 1031 tax deferred exchange. So the thing that we get down to is the net worth grows tax deferred over time. We can exchange those assets without having to incur income or capital gains tax. Rents can cover loans against real estate. So as your rents go up, we can then access equity out of that property. And those loans are not taxable events, but the proceeds from the rent pay for the loan, so we can harvest money out of our properties and use that money and consume it without having to incur real-time income or capital gains tax. And we can do this all legally, morally, and ethically, and we can show you how to do it as well. Tenants bring value. This is probably one of the biggest things that's misunderstood in the real estate investment world. So many people like to complain about tenants. And what I find, my family's been involved in the sales or development of real estate for 4 generations. I've seen a lot of different tenant stories. And what I find is tenant problems are usually a result of landlord inefficiency. If you don't maintain your building and it's constantly breaking down at odd hours of the day, is that really the tenant's problem? No, you're not maintaining your property most of the time. There are strategies and methods that we can point you in the right direction of, good property managers can help with, and that kind of thing, about how to manage properties without having crises with your tenants. But the thing I encourage people to look at, we've talked about leverage, the idea of a bank lending you money, other people's money, to help you with leverage and make your financial situation better. I like to encourage people to look at tenants as other people's efforts. These are people who will sign a contract with you for a year most of the time. It says, this next year, I'll go to work every day, and at the first of the month, I'm going to give you 1/3 of my paycheck. Now, think about this. If I had 3 people all giving me 1/3 of their paycheck, I'd have a whole paycheck without going to work. If I had 30 people giving me 1/3 of their paycheck, if I had 100 people giving me 1/3 of their paycheck. Very interesting how we can use the other people's money through leverage at the mortgage banking, other people's efforts through the form of tenants, and build huge portfolios we never could have if we were trying to do it on our own. We're stronger when we work together. So